welcome to another episode of the Straight Shootin Rant. Hey, what's up, people? My name is Straight Shootin LJA, and welcome to another episode of the Straight Shootin Rants. Now, I've been teasing this online over the past day or so, and Amazon and the changing face of retail is what I'm calling this, because it's been announced, as I record this, it's been announced in the last, just 24 hours, that Amazon have opened an Amazon Go shop in Ealing Broadway. Funnily enough, I actually used to live down the road from there. But that's not the interesting part. Well, that's only part of the interesting part anyway. Now, Amazon Go is very, very important, but it's not even a new thing. Now, if you see, you'll see a lot of comments online where people are surprised. And people are like, oh my God, Amazon, oh my God, they're opening a fully automated store over here. Oh my God. For me, this has been in play for a long time. This has been building for a hell of a long time. It's going to take a while to go through, so bear with me. But as I said, this is not a new thing. Amazon, 2.5 years ago, I think it was in about August of 2018, actually opened their first ever fully automated store out in the States. And at that point, I said to people, there's the future of retail. Food retail, more specifically. There's the future. Because Amazon, their fully automated store literally has nobody in it. And really, truly, all you need is a technician to make sure the computer's all right. And that's where, for me, retail is going, and Amazon are at the forefront of it. They may not be the market leader, that's Tesco in this country, but they will be. They will be. Mark my words, it might take 5-10 years, maybe more, because they're taking a certain road, and I'm going to come back to that in a second. But Amazon will take over the world. And they're doing it very slowly, piece by piece. And for me, they're playing not just a long game, but they're playing a smart one. Now, why I say that is because Morrison's have been struggling over the past few years now. And with them, back in, I think it was 2019, I think it was like October 2019, they signed a deal with Amazon. The reason why that's important is because it was a deal with Amazon so that they could do 45-minute deliveries. Now, why that's important is because, in my opinion, Morrison's, by signing a deal with Amazon, signed their own long-term death warrant. Because Amazon already owned, at that point, Whole Foods. And they'd been developing and working on Amazon Pantry. So, if you can see the tangent, food related. Now, you've got Tesco, Sainsburys / asda, that whichever one is two and three, depends on the way the wind is blowing. But it's one of them ones where you got Aldi and Lidl on the come up. For me, Aldi and Lidl are the here and now, because they are the two upstart companies that are scaring the crap out of Sainsburys and Tesco especially. But we are in a time right now where there's a lot of jobs on the line, and the same day that Amazon Go, that the first Amazon Go store in the UK was announced in Ealing, Sainsburys announced that they're looking to lay off another 500 people from a mixture of head office and a few delivery depots. So, and you add that to the 3,000 plus that they're already looking to get rid of and cut back on, because they're not opening Argos's back up, because remember, Sainsbury's own Argos. They have done for a couple of years now. It's one of them ones. So they're not looking to open the Argos stores back because they've got Argos stores in Sainsbury's and they feel that that's enough. So there's a consultation period coming with that. Also, the deli counters thing as well. The hot food, fish counters and all that, those staff have got to be redeployed because they're not opening those back up. A reactive move to what Tesco did, about 3 or 4 months ago now, when they said they're going to get rid of 1,500 jobs because they're not reopening their meat and fish counters. and half of this is due to the pandemic. The meat and fish counters not opening is due to the pandemic. But it's one of them ones where there's a lot of this stuff that's been in play pre-pandemic. As said, with Amazon Go, their first store in the US opening back in, mid-2018, this stuff has already been in play from a long time ago. But also, Sainsburys cutting jobs, Tesco cutting jobs. Sainsburys cutting jobs that's been in play for about 3 years. 2.5 years ago, I'll take it back, September 2018. There was a restructuring of the Sainsbury's colleague contracts, and they kicked in September of 2018. They were mentioned for the first time around about February of 18, and there was a massive restructure in the company. At that time, we ended up finding out in about mid-April that it was to do with the merger that Sainsbury's wanted to do with Asda. Merger, takeover, whatever you want to call it. I've vlogged on that before. It was a cluster. It was never going to be allowed to happen because the Competition and Markets Authority were never going to allow it. But leaving that aside, job cuts and that kind of thing had already been in play. And since that merger failed and failed miserably, Sainsbury's have been cutting back ever since. Tesco, similar story. But Aldi and Lidl have been clawing away at both of their market shares. I think they have like 15% each or something like that. It might not be that much, but it's something along those lines. So they've been sneaking up and they've scared the crap out of the bigger retailers. Now, why that's important context is because they're all now fighting between themselves, and Amazon now, I said, are playing the long game. They've signed a deal with Morrison's, and if Morrison's ends up getting to a point where it needs to be sold, guess who's going to be first in line? You've got to look no further than Amazon. Amazon will blatantly end up with first refusal because they'll already be in the business, so to speak, like Argos colleagues at Sainsbury's trying to apply for Sainsbury's jobs, where it's like you're already in the business, so you've got a bit of an advantage. And Amazon will get, if they do get Morrison's, they'll probably get it dirt cheap. So long term, it's one of them ones as well where Amazon Go, when that first opened up in 2018, I said that was the future at that point. I've said it to retail colleagues, like checkouts is going to be the first department to disappear completely, but also eventually grocery, produce, you'll see them disappear too. Because even though there were bugs when the Amazon store, the fully automated one, first opened in the States, look at Jeff Bezos and the money he has. And the reason why I say that is because even though he's got to give away, half of it in his divorce settlement, he's still, even with that, comfortably one of the top 10 richest people on the planet. So you think you're going to outspend him? Tesco, not going to outspend him. Sainsbury's, no way going to outspend him. Asda, they haven't got Walmart behind them anymore. They got bought out by a couple of billionaires from the north of the country, north of England. So they're not going to outspend Jeff Bezos. So it's one of them ones where it's like Amazon have got the technology and they are light years ahead of everybody else. Not just in food retail either, but we're sticking on that for the moment. They are light years ahead of anybody else and they can't be outspent. So they can afford to play the long game. And also any bugs in their technology, they can get worked out with the snap of a finger. Because as I said, they've got that depth of resources that nobody else can claim. So I see it as a very, very interesting time for retail in general, where you look at this pandemic and a lot of places have been closed down. Obviously, footfall has gone down completely. Retail in general has been a dying sector for the past 3 to 4 years before the pandemic kicked in. The pandemic, what that has done, in my view, has just accelerated what was already happening. I said, I keep coming back to it. Amazon had a fully automated store open in mid-2018. And then Sainsbury's, being reactive as usual, went and started trialing it in Clapham North in a local store up there. Trialing a fully automated store. And then rolled it out somewhat unsuccessfully in Holborn 6 months later. But already you can see that they were a year plus behind the curve of Amazon. And it was basically a poor bootleg version. So they already showed that Amazon are the future in that regard. And I said, Amazon have been dipping their toe in the water of a few areas. Football coverage. Just over 2 years ago, I did an episode of my Pitch Talk vlog, The Straight Shooting View, where I talked about, can Amazon, Netflix, Facebook and Twitter take over football or change football? And at that point, I thought Amazon were going to jump in kind of headlong or head first into football rights coverage. And again, that's another area where Sky Sports and BT Sport are not going to outspend Amazon. They're not going to. They purely are not. So it's one of them ones where it's like you look at it, and again, Amazon are playing the long game with sporting material such as like documentaries, like Tottenham's All or Nothing documentary, Steven Gerrard Make Us Dream. Manchester City's one as well, the fly on the wall stuff. It's one of them where they've dipped their toe in the water by buying those. But then it's one of them ones as well where you look at the Premier League rights, they've only got like 15, 20 games a season in comparison to Sky Sports and BT Sport, but they only paid a few $100 million, as opposed to BT and Sky Sports, who paid like 4.45 billion just between the two of them for the 150 plus games each that they have. But Amazon, for me, are playing a very smart game, but they're also playing a long one because they know they can, and they know they can't be outspent. Because imagine Amazon saying, oh, we want to buy all the Premier League rights. That wouldn't have been 4.45 billion for 3 seasons. That would have jumped up to 12, because people know Amazon have got money. People know that. When people know you've got money, and a lot of it, they try and extort you and hose you on price. And Amazon has said, only buying the little scraggly amount of games that they've got, the minuscule amount, in comparison to the other two entities, they're playing it very smart. And they could probably add on in the next round of bidding for the Premier League rights, which I think is in about a year or two, is one of them ones. They'll probably knock that up a couple. Go from, say, 12 to 18, and then the year after go from 18 to 30, and build it up slowly so that it happens gradually and nobody realizes it. Because I said that's what they're doing in food retail. So it's one of them where the depth of resources means that they can play the long game, and supermarkets, I think it's going to be too late before they realize what's going on. Because as I said, they've dipped their toe in the water. They own Whole Foods. They've got the deal with Morrison's where they're helping them fulfill deliveries. But as I said, this was all in play before the pandemic. Now the pandemic has just accelerated it. And certain things that were going to happen in maybe 5 years' time may happen within the next year or two. Everything becoming fully automated, boy, that's going to happen very, very soon. Because pretty much everything is switching to online. All these lockdowns and all that. You look at Primark, saying they've said twice during the last year that they're sitting on 1.5 billion pounds worth of unsold stock, but they're resisting the urge to go online. I don't know why, because financially Primark would make a killing. If they could offer the same prices online as they do in store, they'd make an absolute killing. And if they get their delivery and fulfillment right, it's a wrap for everybody else. But it is one of them ones where they've got to be willing to do that. And they're saying at the moment that they're not going to. But eventually they're going to get forced financially. And this is where a lot of these companies are getting a reality check, because financially you can only hold out so long. Like individuals, you can only live on your savings for so long before you've got to reinvest, you've got to reinvigorate. And it's one of them where I said Amazon, they're going to take over, whether slowly, fast, whatever. And you look at the money they're saving by not paying taxes properly as well, that's another factor. They're saving majorly not paying their taxes properly, as unethical as that is. So it's one of them where it's like, I said, man, Amazon are going to take food retail. They're going to take a lot of these big retailers out. And for me, I said, it's a case of you've got big entities like John Lewis struggling. You got Marks and Spencer's looking to close down at this time another 29. They're looking to close down 29 stores. But again, that was already in play before the pandemic, where they were looking to close 200 stores by 2020. So all of this stuff, all of this constriction has just been accelerated. And then unemployment-wise, you're going to have that shoot up when the furlough scheme finally ends, because the furlough scheme is a short-term solution to a long-term problem of employment. But when you've got Amazon and other entities such as Sainsburys making everything automated and trying to go that way, where are the menial jobs going to come from? Where are those jobs going to come from that are going to immediately kickstart an economy? And that, for me, is what has to be thought about. But it won't get thought about until it's way past too late. And I fear that it already is too late. It already is. So, man, I mean, I said, Sainsbury's are being reactive, other retail entities are being reactive, but Amazon are the proactive ones, and they're going to end up the market leaders because of it. And in some areas, they already are leading. So it's going to be a very interesting next couple of years. I mean, we're in early 2020, early March, and it's already interesting to see how certain things are already going. And some of this stuff, some of this stuff that I've said to people for like the last 2-3 years was going to happen in 5, maybe 10 years. I said some of it's been accelerated. Amazon Go coming to this country was probably earlier than they were expecting. But the opportunity is there. The technology is there with Amazon. They've been, during this pandemic, you think the supermarket's making £10.5 billion in 2 weeks or something. It's one of them ones, Amazon probably made 10 times that through online deliveries. When people were afraid to leave their houses during the pandemic at the beginning, and after that initial frenzy in the supermarkets, and everyone was afraid to leave their houses, who do you think cleaned up on that? Amazon. And it wasn't only food that people were buying. So it's going to be a very interesting next few years. But as said, Amazon have positioned themselves very, very well. I don't necessarily agree with it ethically, but they have really, really positioned themselves brilliantly to take over. And not just in one sector either. But as said, Amazon are playing the long game and they're playing the smart game, and they can afford to. Out of anybody, they can afford to. So, boy, it's going to be very interesting to see what goes on next. How these companies are going to adapt, because the big two supermarkets, Tesco and Sainsburys, they are going to have to adapt. And there are only so many cutbacks of staff that you can do. Same with Asda, looking to cut back on 3,000 staff, doing the same reshuffle, restructure, and contractual changeover process that Sainsbury's did 2.5 years ago now. Asda are doing the same thing. But it's one of them, it's going to be you can only cut back so much in terms of staff. And as said, Amazon have cut back totally, I said, with the Amazon Go store, because it's fully automated. So, yeah, man, I mean, everybody else is a couple of years behind. That said, Sainsbury's tried it, had bugs everywhere. But, yeah, man, I said the next couple of years are going to be very, very interesting, specifically in retail, just in general, because the landscape has changed and it will change even more. It really will change. And this pandemic has just, I said, accelerated stuff. So, yeah. But you know what? I'd like to know your views. I am Straight Shooting LJA, and the comment section is below. Please let me know your views. Remember, youtube.com/LJA Productions 07 is where you can find the Straight Shooting Rants playlist. Also, as well, you can find me on Podomatic, on Player FM as well, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify as well. Check out the Straight Shooting Rants. Just search Straight Shooting, no G, an apostrophe, but not a G. Straight Shootin Rants. The Straight Shootin Rants. Search that on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podomatic, Spotify, and Player FM as well. Podomatic, you can actually get the RSS feed from there as well. Also, I'm on Instagram, Liam_LJA_ANGELL, Angel with 2 L's. But yeah, I have been Straight Shootin LJA. Tweet with me, follow me, see what I'm up to at SSLJA on Twitter as well. Facebook.com/Straight Shootin. Again, no G, just an apostrophe, LJA. Facebook.com/Straight Shootin LJA. And at SSLJA on Twitter as well. I've been Straight Shootin LJA, and until next time on the Straight Shootin Rants, comment section is below. Let me know your views, and I will see you next time. Thanks for joining me, peeps. Tweet with me, follow me at SSLJA, and comment section is below. Let me know your views.